Hey, welcome back to my YouTube channel. We're gonna do some dyeing today. This is gonna be kind of a fun little project. I am going to be doing a baby wrap for my sister who is due in March. And she didn't want any colors. So we're doing it in black, but I thought in order to make it sort of a fun, instead of just like plain black and white, I'm gonna do an ombre effect. So I'm gonna start out really dark at the one end and it's gonna sort of end up at a light gray at the other. I'm using this really lovely 8-2 Tencel yarn, and I bought this in bulk, so it's just like a natural color. It's really a lovely color all on its own, but who wants that? That's boring. So so we're gonna dye this, and we're gonna see if we can come up with a really nice ombre effect. It's a little bit difficult on this type of yarn because it is a plant-based fiber as opposed to like a wool or an animal fiber, which you can do with acid dyes, and you just like dip dye it and it comes out beautiful ombre. I have been experimenting with a few different techniques in order to get the look that I'm looking for, and I think I found a way, so we're gonna see if we can figure this out together. I've already warped this. I've got my cross. I'm actually doing two crosses. I've got a threading cross and a, not warping cross. What's the other kind of cross? No, I forgot. Rattle cross. So I've got my threading cross and my rattle cross. And then at this end, I've just put a little tag. It says, it's hard to see from that, but Sarah's wrap. It gives me the number of ends and how long it is. And I do that on all of my warps when I'm not taking it directly from the warping board and putting it right onto the loom. And that way it just helps me to keep track of what's what. And I got these little tags on Amazon and they are wonderful. I just use a Sharpie marker and a little alcohol if I need to take it off. A little rubbing alcohol takes it right off. And I've used these multiple times. So today we're just going to be prepping the warp. It has to be soaked in a soda ash solution. And because there's so much of it, this is 188 inches, so it's approximately 5 yards, more or less. So I'm just going to be putting it in this pan, and normally I have like a bucket with soda ash solution already in it, but there's so much of this that it won't fit in my bucket. So we are just going to do it in this pan. I'm just going to spread this out evenly, and I put another zip tie at this end, so that I don't lose the end. Normally I would put like a big gigantic reusable zip tie, but I don't normally do this long of a die. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to put my mask on because soda ash is super powdery and super fine, and if I don't put this on, I breathe it in and then I cough it up. And I've already got a little bit of a cold, so if I sound congested, that's why. So I definitely don't want to be breathing this stuff in because it's nasty. It's non-toxic, it's just not fun to breathe in. So I'm just going to put that on, and then, oops, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to do this, and it is going to be the best that I have found is actually 1 cup of soda ash for 1 gallon of water. So I find that I get the best results out of this. Ooh, it's been a while since I've used this because I usually, like I said, I usually just use the bucket, and it's, you know, it works, like it doesn't go bad. Right, the soda ash solution doesn't go bad. So I've just been using the same bucket of soda ash solution for like a really long time, which means I have not broken out my little container of soda ash in quite some time. I make it a mess. All right, let's break that up a little bit. So I'm just gonna do a little cup here. It doesn't have to be perfect or exact or anything like that. And then this is just a little cup of warm water just to help it dissolve a little bit. And just get this off. I spilled some. Oops. Good enough. I am by no means a perfectionist when it comes to this kind of thing. So now that I've got that in there, let me wipe that off a little bit, and then I can take this mask off. So the reason we're out here in the pool room today is because my studio does not have running water, and it's the most important thing you need for dyeing things is water. Yay, take that off. Okay, so now I'm just gonna stir this up so that it's nice and dissolved. And now that it's wet and liquidy, I don't have to worry about it, you know, breathing it in or anything like that. And then I have a gallon of water here, so 1 cup of soda ash to 1 gallon of water. And the stuff in the measuring cup is actually warm, and the stuff in the my thing here is actually pretty cold, so it's not really very dissolved very good, but that's okay. Probably should have a glove on because that's not really good for your skin either. It's really important when you're doing soda ash to not let it sit right after you pour it in. So you'll notice that while I was doing that, I was constantly stirring it, and that is to prevent it from clumping. Because it does clump. Oh great, now my hands are wet and I can get my gloves on. Okay, let's try that again. Nothing worse. It's like trying to put jeans on when they're wet. All right, good enough. And, oh yeah, my big stir. Let's do this down. Here we go. All right, here we go. So now I just want to make sure that all of the soda ash is, yeah, see, it got all clumpy. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it got all clumpy down there at the bottom because I let it sit. So I just want to let this dissolve completely. Which it will eventually. Should do it. I don't know if I'm going to need 2 gallons to cover all this or just 1. Let's try. Now I'm just going to pour the soda ash solution into the pan. Just right on top of the yarn. It's okay. Yep, oh, I got it all dissolved almost. Not quite. That's all right. We'll just squish it in there and it'll dissolve eventually. Okay, now I'm just gonna kind of squish everything down, make sure that it gets well covered. Yep, I think I'm gonna need another gallon. It is a lot of yarn. So I bought these big giant bulk yarn. I bought 4 of these things, 4 of these Tencel spools, and I've got like 60,000 yards of this stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do with 60,000 yards of this stuff? And I'll tell you what, I've already got like projects up the wazoo. So I've got this baby wrap. I've got another baby wrap. My other sister is pregnant. She's due in August. So hers is gonna obviously come after this one. Right now I've got a bunch of towels on the loom that are in this same Tencel. I've never used Tencel for towels before, so I'm really hoping that the absorbency is about the same as regular cotton. I'm told that it is. We shall see. Okay, I'm gonna just pause. I'm gonna make up another batch of soda ash solution and dump that in, and I will be right back. Okay, so yeah, 1 more gallon did the trick. So we're just gonna let this sit overnight and let this get good and saturated. Typically I don't let it sit that long, usually just a couple of hours, but we have guests coming over tonight, so I just decided to get this in here before they all arrived. Good morning, Happy New Year. So last night we put the fiber in the soda ash solution to soak, and we are going to go ahead and do the dyeing process today. We're going to be using, because this is a plant-based fiber, we're going to be using fiber reactive dye. I'm going to be using this Dharma fiber reactive dye in Raven. I've already mixed up the color, so we're good to go there. The thing with fiber reactive dye is typically when you're doing a fiber reactive dye, you're going to do it in cold water, and that is the way that that chemical reaction works. However, there's always a but, right? There's more than one way to skin a cat. You can actually get it warm-ish. You can do fiber reactive dye in water in a dye bath anywhere between 70 and 90 degrees, and you don't want to go any higher than 90. You definitely don't want to go to boiling, because it will actually kill the chemical reaction, and you'll come out with very dull, muted colors. So I suppose if you're looking for a dull, muted color, you could do it in boiling water, but if you're wanting it to be a nice bright or rich color, you really don't want to get it any hotter than the 90 degrees, because it just won't come out right. So I've got my water, I've got it warmed up to about 83 right now. I've got a little food thermometer in here to keep track of how warm or cold my water is, because I don't want it to get too hot. I just have it sitting on this is just a little food griddle that I only use for dyeing. I don't use it for food, don't worry. And I've already mixed up my dye over here, and I don't have very much water in here, because basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take the end and I'm not going to like squeeze it out, but I'm just going to like sort of rub the water out a little bit, like that. And then I'm going to be placing it in this pan with the dye in it, and I'm just going to kind of let it set there for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'm just going to move to the next section and set it there for another 5 or 10 minutes. And the great thing with fiber reactive dye is that you'll never actually exhaust the dye out of the water, so I can continue to leave it in there and move it down, and leave it in there and move it down, and the only thing it's going to do is it's going to get lighter, because you're going to soak up some of those color particles into the fiber, but there'll always be some there. So fingers crossed. I've actually done this in an actual pot, and I've actually, it turned out really gorgeous, and it's actually for sale on my Etsy site. If you want to go there, I will put the link below to my Etsy page, where I have done some fiber, what's the word? No, I've done some plant-based fiber dyes. I've done a few animal-based fiber too, and I plan on doing some more, so keep your eye on my Etsy page, because I love to dye things. I just can't use it all. So as soon as I pull it out of the pan, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it in some saran wrap, and that way it will keep the fiber from, well, first it's going to keep it from getting everywhere, and secondly it will keep it from drying out. I don't want it to dry out right now, because I want it to, after I've got it all through the water, through the dye bath, I still am going to let it set for a few hours, not the full 24 like you normally would with fiber reactive dye, but I do want it to set for a little while. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and add the dye in. Ooh, that is dark, and it's gorgeous. Okay, so there's that. Now we're just gonna take this, and like I said, I'm not gonna squeeze the water out completely. I'm just going to sort of keep it from dripping totally all over the place. And I'm just going to set that in here. And I really want to make sure that everything gets completely, I don't want any white spots. So I'm going to set that in there. While I do that, I'm going to go wash my fingers off, and I'm going to set up my saran wrap. There's a little bit of dye left in that jar, so I just want to make sure I get it all in there. Oh, still not. There we go. There we go. Got it all. Okay. So I'm just going to let this sit for another few minutes, and then we will move it. We're going to just, like I did the same thing with the soda water. I mean the soda ash solution there. I'm just going to kind of like squeeze, I don't want to squish it out. I just want to like pull a little bit of the water out. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. So I'm just going to take this out, and like I said, I'm just going to like sort of rub some of the liquid out. I'm not going to like totally squeeze it all out because we want some of it to stay in there. And then we're just going to go ahead and move some of this into the dye bath. Oops. This might be a little bit more complicated than I thought, but that's okay. Pulled the wrong end, that's all. Okay. I'm not going to move like all of it. I'm just going to do like a couple of inches at a time because I really want there to be a lot of dark at this end and a lot of light at the other end to account for loom waste. I don't want it to start while it's gray. Like I don't want the actual baby wrap to start in the gray zone. I want it to start in the black zone and have a lot of black there. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this just a little bit at a time because I really want it to be very dark towards this end. And my temperature right now is at 84, so we're in the perfect zone there. And we're just gonna move this around, make sure that all of that fiber is exposed to the dye. And then we're gonna let that set for another 5 minutes. Okay, so I ran into a problem already, but that's okay. I know how I'm gonna fix it. The thing is, I think I put too much dye in the dye bath. But what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna add some more yarn. I've gone ahead and made up a, just did about 500 yards of this, some more Tencel. I'm actually going to be doing, and this was the plan all along, was to do the warp from the black to the gray, and then the weft going the opposite direction, starting, you know, so that I have the gray and the black as contrast, and then at the other end it'll be the other way around. So, but I was going to do the dyes at 2 separate times. I mean, it's black, so it's really not going to make that big a difference as far as like dye lots go. But I found that I'm pretty sure I put too much dye in here. So I'm going to go ahead and ream up a bunch of, I'm going to do them in 500 yard increments. I need about 4,000 yards for the weft. So I'm going to do them in 500 yard increments, and you can see I left it in here a little bit too long, and it actually started to bleed into my soda ash solution. I think it'll be okay. I'm really not anticipating it's going to be a huge issue. But anyway, I'm going to leave this set for leave this in the water for about an hour. The soda ash solution water for about an hour. It should be fine. Like I said yesterday, it really doesn't need to set overnight. An hour is totally fine. You just want to make sure that it's completely saturated, that's all. So I'm going to leave this end in here for now. I will be back in an hour. I've done the first one at this end, and I just have to do the other 9 because I'm doing an extra one just to be on the safe side. And then, yeah, I'll be back in about an hour. Okay, I'm back, and so we're gonna go ahead and put this weft yarn that I have had soaking in here for a little over an hour. I'm not gonna like totally squeeze it out. I'm just gonna kind of get the majority of it out. It's just gonna go right back in the water anyway. And just gonna plop that right down in there. What this is gonna do is help soak up some of that dye that I put in there, because I'm pretty sure I overdid it on the dye. And that's just gonna help soak up some of them particles. So we're just gonna continue to do this. I'm gonna put in, I have 8 of these. I'm gonna leave these in for a good 20 minutes each, but I'm still gonna do these at like 5 or 10 minutes per section. And we'll see what happens. All right, we're gonna time lapse this so I don't have to keep talking, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Okay, so I just wanted to stop with the time lapse here for a while and just kind of show you how this was going. And it's actually going really, really well. I'm glad that I stopped to do the weft, because that seems to really have helped soak up some of those dye particles and get me the really nice gradient that I'm looking for. And then also wanted to point out, you can see how the dye bath itself still looks exactly the same. It is super dark black, but as you take the fiber out, I don't know if you can see that, it is becoming a very nice gray color. I'm actually gonna go ahead and move this section forward. So yeah, so it's just continuing on doing the same thing. It's been going really well. And just gonna move this section forward, put a little bit in. And then I've been just wrapping it in the saran wrap. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I don't want any contact transfer, which can happen sometimes with this stuff. And then I'm just kind of weaving it into this plastic bucket over here. And we'll see. I'm actually getting a little bit excited. I was a little bit nervous that this wasn't going to work, but I really think it's going to. And, ooh, squeaky. Okay. So yeah, and then I just put a little layer of paper towel in between each layer of the warp, and just put a little bit more in here. I'm almost out of warp here, but I've still got 3 weft bundles left to go besides this one. So I'm going to be doing a little bit slower on the weft and a little bit quicker on the warp, so that we can kind of end up at the same color at the end. And I've maintained a temperature in my water of about 80 degrees roughly. I've turned the heat on a couple of times just to the warm, just to kind of get it back up to that 80 degrees. And this has taken so far, well, not including the break I took, a couple hours. I've been working on this a couple hours now. So it hasn't taken as long as I thought it was going to take, which is good, because I thought this was going to be here all day. But I didn't start until later in the afternoon anyway, so. Okay, yeah, we'll just go ahead and fast forward here, and then I will meet you at the other end. so we've just I put the last of it in there. It's been sitting for 10 minutes, so we're just gonna take it out. I'm gonna wrap the end of this, and I'll wrap that. And then we're just gonna let it sit for a few hours. Oh, that just came out so beautifully. Look at how nice and light gray that is at this end. Oh, so excited. Okay, I just love it when things that I think are not gonna turn out actually do turn out, because I was like, not really sure like how this was gonna go. And to be honest, this at this end doesn't really matter that much. I think my threading cross is over here, so this end is going to be some loom waste anyway, but that's, you know, it is what it is. And then of course once you rinse it out, it's probably going to get even a little bit lighter. I don't know, we'll find out. I might need 2 pieces of saran wrap. You know what, I'm just going to fold it up in here because it doesn't matter. All right, because this is the end, and we don't care about the end because that's all going to be loom waste anyway. So, just going to wrap this up. And the reason the other reason I'm wrapping, besides the contact transfer, is because I'm going to let it sit for a few hours, like I said, and I don't want it to dry out while I'm letting it sit. So the saran wrap helps it to stay moist while it's doing that. And then the last of the weft yarn. Oh yeah, that's gorgeous. But you can see how dark the dye water still is, even though this came out super, super light gray. So, and that is just the nature of fiber reactive dyes. It will always look this dark, even if you're not, not getting that color out of it, it's gonna look that dark. So whenever you're dyeing something with fiber reactive dyes, you always kind of have to take it kind of with a grain of salt, because you might think it's gonna turn out like super, super dark, and it ends up being much lighter than you anticipated. And so that was another reason why I overdid on the dye in the first place, because you can't always tell. They do have, Dharma has like a calculator on their website that like tells you how much dye to use per pound of yarn. But of course I forgot to do that, and I forgot to weigh my yarn before I started, so we just winged it, which is what I do most of the time anyway. I hardly ever use that calculator, although it is quite handy. I have used it a couple of times in order to get like a really nice rich color out of something that I thought was not going to be as rich or colorful as I was hoping for. Like usually the lighter colors, like the yellows and such, I'll use the calculator for, just to make sure that I have enough in there to begin with. And then, I might add a little bit more just to be on the safe side. Okay, so I've got everything all wrapped up and ready to go. I'm gonna, like I said, let it sit for a couple of hours just to make sure that all of the chemical reaction in the dye and the fiber have done its thing, and then we'll come back and rinse it out and I'll show you what it looks like. It took me several hours to get it all rinsed out. Again, because it's a fiber reactive dye, it does take a long time to get all of the extra dye that didn't stick to the fibers out. So what I do is I rinse it out until the water is fairly clear, not 100%. And then I soak it in a warm soapy water bucket for a couple of hours, and then I rinse that out until it's mostly clear, a little bit clearer than it was the first time I rinsed it out. And then I soak again for a couple of hours in just regular cold water with no soap in it. Sometimes though I will do a second soapy water soak. It kind of depends on the color that I'm using. Reds tend to bleed a lot more when you're rinsing than most other colors. I don't know why that is. I think it just has to do with the type of dye that they use for the reds. But anyway, so I got it all rinsed out, and here we are. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It did come out more blue. I don't know if that's easy to see on the screen here, but it's a very actually gorgeous denim sort of gray blue, and I absolutely love it. I was not what I was expecting. I was definitely expecting more of a gray, but you know what? The biggest point that my sister wanted with this baby wrap was that it would just kind of go with everything. She's a little bit, I mean, she's quite fashion conscious, so she just wanted it to make sure that it would just go with everything, and denim just mostly goes with everything that she wears anyway, so we're just gonna leave it and not try to like over dye it so that it's more of a gray. And I don't know why that happens. Sometimes it has to do with the heat. It may have reacted with the Raven, with the black, more than I thought it would, or it could have been because it's Tencel and not cotton, and the chemicals it just reacted differently with this different type of fiber. I don't know. I'm not a chemist, so it could have been, or it could have been something else entirely. I have no idea. Raven black is made up of like every single color. If you were to like take a pinch of the Raven black and sort of run it under the water, you would see like reds coming out and blues coming out and yellows coming out and greens and all of the colors. So this particular one, just the blues reacted more than any of the other colors, and so it came out this really lovely blue color, which is fine. I absolutely love it. It's a gorgeous color. So for the weaving part, we're gonna start at this light end. I know originally I said I was gonna do 9 bundles of the weft yarn. I ended up only doing 8, mostly because I was running out of time and I just didn't want to do one more. But that's okay, because like I said, I'm going to start at the light end and work my way towards the dark end, and if I need to do another weft bundle, it's going to be really easy to just do it a slightly darker color. I can pretty easily manage to get one darker than this. So I'll just, you know, obviously save a little bit of this so that I can sort of make sure that it is going darker, which is fine. It will totally work. And then the warp yarn came out absolutely gorgeous as well. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. It started at the darker end, and it is lighter, and it is beautiful gradient ombre all the way across. It is a tad bit darker, like right here, this little bit right here, because I left that part in the water a little bit longer while I was reaming up the weft, so that's why that end is a little bit darker there. So I might end up just dyeing this little bit here so that it's darker than that little bit there. I'll probably end up doing that. It's absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to get this on the loom and weave this up, and we will see you then. See you next time.